And welcome back. If you remember last time, we did this print header, print number, get a number, just to show that inside this we can actually use a function to validate both the success of getting a number and the range of getting a number. However, in doing so, this violates one of my tentative rules, which is do only one thing here in a function. This does two. This gets a number and validates it. That's two things. So what we can do is we can take this and split it apart. So we can use get a number, and then we can also create a Boolean value returning called validate a number, just for fun. Now, to make this a little more usable for us, we can pass into this the range of values we want to use to validate something. So, for example, if we're dealing strictly with integer numbers and we know that it's got a minimum and a maximum, we can do this. We pass in a min and a max. Now, in most code, if you have mins and maxes available to you, they're going to be defined as constants. Like this. So like for grades that we've had dealt with before, you'll see this. Now, you can pass these in strictly as integers. You can do it just the way we've done it there. But, however, if you really want to be better at this, we want to make this known that this is a constant. So I'm going to define this as a constant int coming in. And that tells me when I write my code below that this itself will not allow me to change those values. So let's go ahead and copy validate number. We'll drop all the way down here. And this is going to be the constant int max. We'll do a maximum. And then we'll do a constant int minimum. And we can take this part of the problem, and I'm just going to steal a little bit of this because I have to edit some. I don't need fail because the only way I'm going to get here is if the number that we pass in is going to be between these ranges of maximum and minimum. So there's our test. What we don't have is the number. So we've got a max, a min, and then we need to include in this the number to test. So max, min, and there we go. So there's our max, there's our min. So while the number is less than max and the number is greater than min, we know that it's good. I don't need to check for fail. I'm not doing any correcting here. I'm going to use this simply to say, was I successful at getting a number or was I not? So I don't need to ask anything here. What I need to do is return to my calling program the correct answer. So in this case, while the number is less than the maximum and greater than the minimum, and in reality, since from 0 to 100, we'll do less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Oops. So is it greater than or equal to, or no? That should be I have it right. So yeah, greater than or equal to maximum, or less than or equal to minimum. Confusing myself a little bit, that's okay. So is it greater than max or less than the minimum? That means it's out of range. So now I want to return false. Otherwise, return true. So it's going to do this test, and in reality, it's not a loop, it's an if, because I don't need to repeat it. If the number's out of range, it's bad. If the number's otherwise, it's going to be in range, and I just return true. So when I call this thing up here, and I say, get an integer number, this is going to return an integer value to number. So then what I want to do is validate that number, so which means I need a Boolean value. Valid. And I'm going to set it equal to false, just because that way I'm testing myself as valid. Testing to make sure that it's going to work. So I get an integer number, then I go if validate, and then I do max, min number. So this is going to say if this is true, I need to do something else. I need to continue on with my code. But do I really want to do that? No, we're going to go ahead and loop this sucker. So I'm going to say if it's not valid, I'm going to, guess what? Get a number. And then validate it again. So this is going to loop back and forth to make sure that that number's right. And I can do the same thing with this number and this number. And if the range changes anywhere along the way, I can put in other constants or temporary values to say, hey, call this validate number thing, give it a range of values, and test it and see if it works. This is a quick way of just finding out whether things are in range or valid for what you're looking for. If you're looking for uppercase or lowercase characters, you can test for that and return that value. If you want to make sure that what you got was a number from a string, that it has that a single character was a number, you can check to see if it's a digit or not. All these things allow you to test things and build out your own custom code that now makes this a whole lot easier than trying to do it any other way. And you're starting to see, I hope, how we use values inside of our code and functions to organize things into pieces of puzzles that only do one thing, which means I would take this and replace all of this, because I don't need that anymore. And then I don't need one of these parentheses. So all this is going to do is say, did it fail? I don't need to even do this if anymore, do I? I can say, while it did not work, let's reformat our code. Refactor code, reformat. While it did not work, guess what? Go get it again. So now this is only responsible for getting a number. It's not responsible for anything else. This guy down here is responsible for validating a number or validating the information. It does one thing and does one thing well. And by building it this way, we've made it a little bit more flexible for use anywhere along the way. So now you can see value returning functions can return Boolean values. Was I successful in doing something or not? And we can use multiple functions to actually get things returned to us corrected and validated so that our main program can now work on just doing the right thing. And if you really wanted to do it right, or in a different way, not necessarily right, you could actually use validate number and use get an integer number and pass it into the min and max so that this number can say get a number, validate it, and then only return a valid number. But by splitting it up, you can use it wherever you need to. So that's just some more interesting things you can do with functions. Hope you're having a great day.